All right, guys, what's up? My name is Quincy. This is QnA, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. And this week, we're going to try to detox from the Jets loss and try to get ourselves back reacclimated into winning football as we prepare for the Pittsburgh Steelers obviously in a must-win game situation. So a lot of questions this week. Gonna jump into them, and I'm gonna start with Giants Nation, who says, "What's up, Quincy? Now with this loss, it's must-win for the Browns against the Steelers. Do you believe this will help the Browns to have more motivation for the Steelers game?" I mean, like, look, I'll just say it like this: if you need motivation to beat the Steelers, you need to reacclimate how you prepare yourself as a professional, because you shouldn't need motivation for any NFL game, but especially when you're in the Cleveland Browns and you're playing the Steelers. So they better be motivated. They better not come out there looking defeated. I see some of the defeatist stuff from Browns fans who've watched the team for like 20 years, whatever. You know, they're not on the team. If this team comes out there acting like they've already lost to Pittsburgh Steelers, unacceptable. So they better come out there and play hard. And, you know, the onus is on them to win that game, or else the Jets game will define them. So that's up to them. This next question comes from Yoshi, who says, "Does this loss officially take Stefanski out the coaching of the year race? And how's Wade stuff going?" All right, so 2 updates on that. Coach of the year race, I don't know. It depends on what else happens. I mean, Pittsburgh was the only other contender in that, and they lost to Cincinnati. They came back and won against Indy, so you can argue if he comes back, beats Pittsburgh, you could say, well, you know, that's a bounce-back game. And there are circumstances that surround the loss to the Jets that are kind of out of his control. So I don't know how that's going to go. But the Wade Steph situation, there's been good news, but it's not definitive news yet. From what I have seen from some key analytics on YouTube, it looks like come January, at the beginning of the month, I should know for sure whether that is officially done, whether, you know, I'm going to be paid from YouTube as far as AdSense revenue or not. I will find out at probably the 10th or 10th to the 15th of January. That's when I find out what the real situation is. But the analytics and the numbers look promising, look good, look to be on that track, but I want to make sure everything's cool before I make the official update video. So thank you for asking about that. That is the status of that. The next question comes from Ask the Right Questions, who says, "If the Browns lose next week to the Steelers and fall short of the playoffs, do you think this season was another disappointment to the long history of the Browns factory of sadness, or a bright future for long-time success in Kevin Stefanski finally being the coach of the future?" I don't mean to not give a straight answer on that, but the answer to your question is completely up to the Cleveland Browns. It is up to them. Next week, are they going to allow the loss against the Jets to define them, to define this season? Because if you do lose against Pittsburgh, that Jets loss does define you. It does. Unfortunately so. You know, you would have worked all hard just to have something like that come around and the loss to the Jets define you. But it will. It's up to them. And much like that is up to them, this season and how it's viewed will be up to this team and how they respond to this year. If they come out next year and go 12-4 and make a run in the playoffs and hopefully win everything, nobody's going to care what they did this year. It's going to be a footnote. But, you know, it's up to them. If this is the best out of the Kevin Stefanski era, then it will define Kevin Stefanski. That is how that goes. You know, so it's all up to the people in that locker room. It's up to Kevin Stefanski, his coaches. It's up to Baker Mayfield, the offense, the defense. It's up to everybody in that locker room how this will define you. Will this be a disappointment, or will this be a footnote? You have the opportunity to determine that against Pittsburgh and going forward with the rest of the Stefanski era. The next question comes from Raymond, who says, "Do you think the Steelers will rest their starters next game?" I wouldn't anticipate it. If you were the Steelers, right, put yourself in that position, right? If this were the Browns and the offense had looked like poop for like 4 straight weeks, you finally get a game where your offense looks good in the second half. Are you going to want to bench your starters and risk that momentum going away when that's been a major problem when it comes to the run game and the pass game, that the momentum has not been there for you, and rest your starters and allow that to happen so you show up flat in the playoff game? Also, would you rest your starters against the Browns knowing that if the Browns beat you, you play them the very next week? So you're giving them more momentum. I don't think they're going to do that, man. I wouldn't expect the Steelers to come out here and take it easy on the Browns. I don't think the Steelers want to see the Browns in the first round. So they want to take care of them now. That's how I think it is. Unless they're like super arrogant, they're going to let us walk in there and then play them again because they just think they have the edge over us, which is possible. They could definitely think that. But I wouldn't anticipate it. I think they're going to have everybody out there. Prepare for Big Ben. Prepare for the starting Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not going to bench anybody. That's my opinion on it. I don't care if they have anything to play for technically when it comes to seeding. The one thing they do have to play for is, do they want to play the Browns 2 weeks in a row? The next question comes from Games, who says, is the current Browns offense sustainable when healthy? They have a top 10 offensive line, receiving core, possibly the best running back duo. At some point, you have to pay Baker, and you can't have all of those things anymore. In addition, you have to invest in defense. Can Baker perform with the average offensive line or a bad receiving core in the future? My response to that is, how much money is really invested in the wide receiving core as it's been? Right? You got $15 million going to Jarvis, and you got Rashard Higgins and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and it's been just fine. So you don't need a top tier, all this money in the receiving core for Baker Mayfield to be good. What you need is a good offensive line. And, that's par for the course for any franchise quarterback that's not, transformative in that way that like a Patrick Mahomes is transformative. So, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the reality of the situation is also the last 4 weeks, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt have also been a footnote, to Baker Mayfield. So the argument can be said that all you need is a good offensive line to get the most out of Baker, and what you didn't have this week was a good offensive line. We could talk about the receivers. We didn't even get to see what the receivers had because you couldn't block. Baker got hit so many times. He fumbled 3 times because he was getting hit all the time. So that's what the situation is. The way the Browns are built is definitely sustainable. They're not built unsustainably. They don't have a ton of money in a ton of different places, especially with what they have now. Odell's hurt. He's not out there, so it's not like you needed Odell and Jarvis. The way they're built is fine. How they played on Sunday is not. The next question from Josh Hooper says, hey, Q, do you see the Browns responding next week against the Steelers, considering we're 4-0 after a loss this season? They better. They've done it all year, but they better now. This is no time to break that trend. They better. They have no choice but to. If they lay an egg against Pittsburgh, completely changes the perspective of the season, lets a bunch of things define it, changes how everybody looks at it. That's the reality of it. They better. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no wiggle room. There's no silver lining right now. They better. That's the option. This next question comes from Ray Jackson, who says, what's the biggest problem on the offense beside the offensive line? If we're talking about the game on Sunday, it was the offensive line. Wide receivers were terrible. Running backs were terrible. But did they really get a chance? Nick Harrison and Kendall Lamb letting everybody come through. And it ain't Nick Harris and Kendall Lamb's fault. Those are third stringers. That is what it is. Hopefully you get Jedrick back from Pittsburgh, because if you don't, might suck. Next question comes from Fly on the Wall 412, who says, do you think the Browns fans have been too critical of Baker because of this game, especially given the situation and the defensive struggles? I mean, honestly, it was a tough situation for Baker Mayfield, but the fumbles, he's got to hold on to the ball. Like that just is what it is. You can blame one of those fumbles on the offensive line. All 3 of those fumbles ain't on the offensive line. It's on Baker Mayfield, 2 of them at least. So you can't have the turnovers, and that's what's not excusable. And that's what Baker Mayfield has even himself said is not excusable. And if you don't have those 3 turnovers, you might win the game. That's the reality. It stinks. The situation stinks. But, turning the ball over, that don't help either. Next question comes from James Jason, who says, should the Browns replace Joe Woods with Matt Patricia? Patricia was the defensive coordinator for the Patriots during 2 of their Super Bowls. We can't get much worse than Joe. You can. If you hire Matt Patricia, you will get worse than Joe Woods, because Matt Patricia's defenses in Detroit have been terrible. Matt Patricia is not the reason the Patriots went to the Super Bowl 2 times, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Do we not remember Bill Belichick was a defensive coordinator? Defensive specialist, Bill Belichick? No, man. Matt Patricia is a gimmick. He's a joke. No, you do not want Matt Patricia here with his pencil on his laminated board. That tells you all you need to know about that dude. You can't even write on laminate with a pencil. He just got that out there for a show. I don't want Matt Patricia. Dude's a gimmick. Dude's out there coaching a 4-10 team for the second year in a row, talking about I'm the dude who got Malcolm Butler in position to get that pick during the Patriots. That's not a guy you need in the locker room. That's not who you need to hire. Hire anybody else but him. No. So you bring in Matt Patricia, that's a clown show. I don't want that. I get he has the great resume and he looks great on paper, but look what he's actually done in the places he's been at, and look how nowhere has suffered because he hasn't been there. And that shows you Matt Patricia not that big of a difference maker and not going to change things from Joe Woods. Joe Woods, I believe, is at least competent and at least is a mature adult about things. I don't think the same thing of Matt Patricia. Next question comes from Jay, who says, as a Browns fan, I feel like a loser. Would it have been better if the Browns never came back? All right, Jay, man, I understand. You probably sunk this. Browns just lost. You're not feeling good. But, brother, I'm going to need you to stand up, put your chest out a little bit, because that's just, nah, man. We're not about to do that. We're not about to be like the Browns should have never came back because they hurt me one time. No. These games, these kind of losses are a privilege in the NFL. To be this disappointed in your team is a privilege in the NFL. To have this many stakes on a game against Pittsburgh is a privilege in the NFL. All right? As a NFL fan, this is privileged territory. To be talking about meaningful football in December is a privilege to have. It is something that Browns fans have fought for 20 years and have prayed for, was to have the privilege to be disappointed in this team in December instead of September. So if you want to do that, bro, this ain't the franchise for you. We're not doing that no more. We're not settling for disappointment in September because it hurts less. No, this is a privilege to be here and to be this upset at this point of the year. We're not doing this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing the same old Browns stuff. I'm not doing the woe is me, poor Browns fan. I'm not going to play into those fantasies. The fact is that we're in a privileged position here to be talking about the playoffs and to have a win in your end situation. And we need to accept that and live in that and love it. The Steelers were in that situation this week. Did they go, oh man, I wish the Steelers would have never been formed as a franchise? No, they puffed their chest out. They said, we still the Steelers. They beat the Colts. We need to do that. We need to stop being pathetic about this whole situation. Stop immediately curling into the same old Browns. Oh, woe is me, poor me, I'm a Browns fan. They should have never came back. Nah, we need to stop doing that, man. With all due respect, we need to stop doing that. Understand, this right here, what you're feeling right now, is a privilege. It's a privilege that I want to continue to feel as long as the Browns exist. I don't want to feel what I felt in 2016 or 2017 when this team was out of it in week 3 and they had no chance and we played no meaningful football. I know what that feels like. This is a privilege. So if you want to play meaningful football, this comes with the territory. So either you got to toughen up and accept and take these L's when they happen and try to bounce back, or you could cheer for Rutgers, because Rutgers don't play in no meaningful game. Cheer for Kent State. They don't play in meaningful games. Their seasons never matter. You could cheer for those teams. Cheer for a bad college football team, but the NFL ain't for you if you don't want to cheer for meaningful games, because your team's eventually going to play meaningful games, and now we're in that situation. So this is what it is. It's a privilege to feel like this at this point in the season. Understand it. There's nobody wants to hear what was me Browns fan stuff right now. Nobody wants to hear it. You think Texans fans want to hear us complain? You know what I mean? Like, you think Falcon fans want to hear us complain? Like, you think any of these teams drafted at the bottom want to hear us complain about how tough it's been? Going 10-5, nobody cares, man. This was cute when the Browns stuck and it was 0-16 and, we were doing the 0-16 parade. That was cute then. It has no place now. You either give it up or cheer for Rutgers, because now the Browns have positioned themselves to play big boy football in big boy moments and big boy time for a while. And if you as a fan don't want to take that, I understand it. There are other teams out there for you to cheer for, but we're not about to be held back because some fans don't want to cheer for meaningful football. That's ridiculous. But that's it for you guys' questions. I apologize if I have been coming off as short-tempered or irritable in the last few videos. Quite frankly, I am irritable. It's been a bad week. A lot of things have happened, football-related and non-football-related, that have really just not put me in the greatest and most happiest place mentally. So, forgive me for that if I have a little bit of an edge or if I'm a little bit irritable. I do appreciate all you guys, even the ones I disagree with. I appreciate all you guys for showing up, asking the questions, participate. I hope you respect that I disagree with y'all sometimes, and sometimes I disagree passionately. But that's it for this week's Q&A. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, have a great day. Have a good night.